I'm Jim Wimer, and I belong to WKY-TV, and I joined the station in 1953. And then when I retired from the station, it was 1989. That's quite a few years to be in television. I enjoyed it. I belonged to the production department. I did all phases of production, from directing to stage manager and whatever they needed. And I did it gracefully. As a matter of fact, I think the production department in any TV station, at least it was at WKY, is probably the backbone of any TV station. Because without production and the department and those who worked with it, it could not have been done successfully and helped those who were behind the camera and also those who were in front. Because those who were in front of the camera had to rely on us for everything. And sometimes it got a little hairy, especially when it came to time. And of course they would get nervous, and that's all right, we did too. But anyway, I worked on different shows while I was there. I worked, let's see, what did I do at the beginning? We had to go to school when I first got there and joined the company. We had to apply ourselves to different equipment that we had. We had to learn and school on it, from running the mic booms to the sanders, and a sander is a crane that would take you up and down, and you had a man on it to take you up and down. It was a lot of fun, and it was used exclusively on cooking shows. They finally did away with it and gave it to a sister station, and we were in black and white in those days, which made it really different, because eventually we went to color. And when we went to color, why, that was another different ball game at that time. We had cameras, we had 3 of them, 3 color cameras. They were called TK40s. I couldn't tell you what it meant, but anyway, that's what we called them. And we did shows eventually, like the Tom Paxton show. We did musical shows. It's been so long. Jude and Jody. We did Mathis Brothers. I did Buck Owens. I lighted Buck Owens probably more than anybody that had worked it. And I had my picture taken with the group. They were a fine bunch of boys and fine men to work with. Their morals were high. We also, I worked with, well, let's see, Foreman Scotty, Steve Powell and Foreman Scotty. We had a lot of fun with that. We would carry things from the warehouse and set them up. We did that on a Monday, and we started that at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I remember. We would work then, we would come in, set up, and then we would break for probably an hour for lunch. And then we would work till 10 o'clock at night, because they had to do the 10 o'clock news and we had to be finished. So that's how that worked with Foreman Scotty. Okay, I did Chris Daniels, and it was called Deputy Chris. We would roll in the sets. We would roll in one set and do the show for 30 minutes and roll another one out, and we'd have a break maybe for 30 minutes to get it all set up and lighted. But I worked with Chris, and he was easy to work with, very jovial, very happy individual. Also, he did commercials at the station. That's when we had people on the staff who did commercial TV. Well, that was great because at that time it was live, no taping, and they had to do it and do it right. Because if they didn't, they would foul it up, and when they did, it was a make good, and that cost the company money. But there were the good times. I remember when we had the Cowboy Hall of Fame. It opened up, and we worked that. That was on June the 26th, and I can't remember the date of it, but it was June 26th that we did that. And we worked with the Indians. We had a lot of people that worked it, a lot of cameras. I remember that the engineers that we had working it they worked themselves hard. Everything we did was new in those days. And I will have to say, like Ed and myself, we pioneered TV. Because when I started in 1953, there were not too many people in the biz. But there were a lot of them that finally joined, but they didn't stay with it. Because it's a hard business. It's a hurry up and wait business. And Ed and I hurried up and waited for a lot of people. And we've laughed about it, and I hope Ed's doing fine. I hope to see him one of these days. And anyway, so much for the Cowboy Hall of Fame. So like I say, we did Jude and Jody. We Love Folks. And I suppose they did. They made a lot of commercials with us. They had a lot of talent on their show. And then also the Mathis brothers. They could strum the guitars and sing, and we helped them along. Made cards for them, held them up, called cheat sheets, and so they could read commercials off of them, and also play their music. But the thing I remembered was Buck Owens, because I had to light a lot of his shows, and it was pretty touch and go. And we had an art director whose name was Doyle Glazer. And as far as I'm concerned, Doyle is one of the greatest artists we've had in the television industry. And I was very lucky to have worked with Doyle. It wasn't easy because Doyle was cranky. And he and I didn't always hit it off, but I really liked Doyle. And I was lucky to have worked with him, like I said, and I learned a lot. And I worked with Buck Owens. I lighted his shows. And there was Mary Shaw, who did Creative Crafts. Mary was a sweet gal, and her show was one of the longest running shows we had on TV. And she would make things and bring different people out, and they would paint, or they would do whatever it is you made with paper mache. And they would bring people out to do origami, which you would cut up little dolls and make different houses and different things out of paper and a pair of scissors. Oh well, so much for Mary. She was a sweet gal. And then we had, I remember wrestling. Oh yeah, that was a good one. We would come in, work all day, and then we'd leave, go out for supper, and we'd have a man who would come in and set up a wrestling ring in Studio C. That was the studio that we did all the taping, most of the taping. And we would set up and light that, and we would have a director that would come down, and he would find out what different shots that some of the wrestlers would like. And we had Leroy McGurk at that time, who was who promoted all that. And Leroy was supposed to have been blind, but now Leroy McGurk, if those who can remember him, he was one of the finest wrestlers, and I believe he went to OSU. but he could take a pair of pliers and put it in his hand and break them. Not many people can do that with a grip. So he promoted that, and I remember that they would fall off, be thrown off of the ring or out of the ring, and they would fall underneath. Now I would run camera on that, and then we'd back up, and when we did, the wrestlers would fall under the ring, and they would take a razor blade and cut themselves above the eyebrow. It was done quick, and then they would naturally, anything that's done on your face, you bleed profusely. And they would get up with blood running down their face and jump back into the ring, and we had an audience that would come in and sit around the ring and enjoy the wrestling, and they would scream and yell, and of course we would laugh. It was funny. Oh golly, I can go back and think of different things that were funny and things that were not funny. But we had a Sunday school class, and we had a woman who taught it named Miss, who did the show, and her name was Miss Jane. I can't remember her last name, but she was good. And one time we were doing John Spence and I were running camera. So in the meantime, he started hammering. Boom, boom, boom. Well, Miss Jade would look at the camera, and then she would look off toward Earl. Well, Earl never did notice it, and Miss Jade would try to say things like to change the subject about the banging on the wall.
And it has a hug and a kiss and a hug and a kiss and a hug and a kiss and a hug and a kiss.
So anyway, as time went on, 2 or 3 more bangs. Well, Miss J just really stared at the camera. You could tell her expression.
We must get them finished so that we can send the boys and girls their pictures out, because we're far behind.
She was very uptight, very mad. And Earl turned around and looked at us and said something like, "Oh my," and stopped. Well, that brought us back to the program, which we did. We were all giggling and laughing, could hardly hold the camera steady. But there's some of the funny things that happened in it. Well, I don't know. I could go on and on with this TV business. And like I say, I retired in 1989, and I joined in 1953. That's a long time to spend in television. I met a lot of nice people. I could go on about them, but I hope one of these times they're going to come up and sit down like I am and have themselves taped, and they'll tell you their end of the story and what they did. So the people that I worked with again were the greatest. They were the salt of the earth, and I enjoyed them. And I guess I'm getting too long-winded, so I'm going to say that's about it for me. And I'm going to turn this over to the next person who wants to do this, or maybe they can tell them things that we all did together, because I enjoyed it.